Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. Leslie Braxton, and I am the senior pastor of the New Beginnings Christian Fellowship in Kent, Washington. And I want to take this opportunity to present my own personal reaction in response to Governor Nikki Haley's call on yesterday for the removal of the Confederate flag from the Capitol buildings in the state of South Carolina. I applaud the removal of the flag. It is way past time. 150 years past time, as a matter of fact. But I want to give 4 specific reactions to her call, the right thing that I believe in her case was done for some very wrong reasons. Number 1, I believe that her call for the removal of the Confederate flag at this time was done as a calculated act of political expedience because of shifting political winds in light of the massacre of 9 African Americans in the Mother Emanuel Church, AME Church in South Carolina, as opposed to being an act of courage rooted in moral outrage over what the flag as a symbol represents. One merely has to ask the question, Governor Haley and Senator Lindsey Graham, who stood beside her and who is running for the office of the presidency of these United States, mind you, why did not you call for the removal of the flag prior to the massacre of those persons? Why now? I contend simply that they're calling for the removal of the flag now for the very same reasons that they defended the flag as early or as recently as last year. And that is political expedience. When it was expedient to defend it, they defended it. When the political wind shifted and now it's expedient to call for its removal, they're calling for its removal. Political expedience, plain and simple. No moral compass, simply political calculation. Right thing, wrong reason. Secondly, Governor Haley, in her presentation, spoke in a manner that was both historically inaccurate and intellectually dishonest. She said that the flag will always be a part of the soil of South Carolina. That is not true, my brothers and my sisters. The Confederate flag is not at all to be confused with the South Carolina state flag, which presents the image of a palmetto plant and a crescent moon, both in white against an indigo background. The true South Carolina state flag began to appear in the colony of South Carolina as early as 1775, a year before the Revolutionary War, and was formally adopted as the state flag in 1861, the very year of the start of the Civil War. South Carolina's history and heritage is attached to its state flag, as is the case in all other states. The Confederate flag is just that. It is the battle flag of the Confederacy, which was an illegal, treasonous, rebel movement that was raised throughout the South, inclusive of 12 states, that had an ideal antithetical to the ideas that are framed in the Constitution of these United States of America. Let me read you the words of Alexander Stephens, who was the vice president of the Confederacy, who spoke in 1861 in his now infamous Cornerstone speech, where speaking extemporaneously, he said, and I quote, "Our new government is founded upon exactly the opposite ideas of the Union. Its foundations are laid, its cornerstone rests upon the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, that slavery, subordination to the superior white race is the Negro's natural and normal condition," unquote. That is what the lie passed off as truth was being fought for by the Confederacy. That is what the Confederate flag symbolizes. By its own admission, its truths are opposite ideas as are framed in the Constitution of our United States of America, which says all people are created equal endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Confederate ideal says that all people are not equal. Whites are superior. All others are inferior, and blacks are uniquely inferior, and that their normal estate is bondage, and that you can alienate them from life and liberty and block any path to the pursuit of happiness. You literally cannot embrace the ideas symbolized in the Star-Spangled Banner with the ideas symbolized in the Confederate flag. It is intellectually dishonest and historically inaccurate to say that the Confederate flag is in fact the symbol of South Carolinian history and that it has a benign meaning that can be embraced in today's society. Thirdly, Governor Haley suggested that no one will be denied the right to fly the flag in private, as if it is okay to arc the flag in one's personal dwelling, so that the residents on one's block will have to drive past it and view it and explain it to their children. History is the story of the fact that following World War II, German society came together and not only rid itself of the Third Reich along with Allied forces, but declared thereafter, full-throated, unequivocal, without qualification and reservation and hesitation, that the Third Reich was in fact a moral evil and a scourge that was rightfully removed not only from German society but the face of the earth. 30 million Europeans died in fighting against the Germans in World War II across the continent of Europe. German society has a clear definition of what is right and what is wrong. And the Third Reich, symbolized by a swastika, clearly falls within the realm of what is wrong. American society needs to be just as clear, just as resolute, just as unambiguous that the Confederate movement built in the idea that it is okay to enslave one group of people for the benefit of another, and that they were willing to secede from the Union to do so, that it was an evil, it was demonic, it was treasonous, it was rebellious, and it was rightfully put down at the cost of nearly 600,000 lives on both sides of the Mason-Dixon line. There can be, never has been, nor will there ever be a benign presentation of that flag and all that it represents. It belongs in a museum where it can rightfully be presented in context as an evil that, thanks be to God, was forever removed from the face of the earth and from the psyche of this great nation. Finally, now is the time, 150 years, sadly, after the conclusion of the Civil War, to not only take down the Confederate flag from every place that it flies, but to dismantle all monuments, to remove all symbols that are presented to honor the Confederacy. I've heard many public officials say they want the flag to continue to fly because they chase their heritage and their ancestry back to the flag, that they had family members who fought for the Confederates' cause. I sympathize with them. All of us have family members, present and past, who are embarrassing to us. But we ought to have the moral clarity to at least know what we ought to be embarrassed about and what we ought to honor. That one has family members that may in generations past have served in the Confederacy does not make their crimes any less criminal. It does not make their deeds any less disastrous and dastardly. It does not make their sins any less sinful. It does not make the hell that they unleashed on others any less hell. The families of the United States of America should declare once and for all, regardless of who did it, the Confederate cause was wrong. It was evil. My brothers and my sisters, I hope that in this moment, the United States will finally join the nations of history that retrospectively have looked back on their experience, and they have declared, both for now and the future and the past, what was always right, what was always wrong, and what will always be right, what will always be wrong. The Confederate flag and all that it symbols was one of the darkest chapters in this nation's history. It cannot be coddled. We cannot acquiesce to it. We cannot find a charmed place for it. It needs to be removed, relegated to museums, and declared what it was, an evil that, thanks be to God, has been removed from the face of the earth. These are my thoughts. God bless you as you consider what are yours.